For every Armageddon, you get Deep Impact. For every Bug's Life, you're going to have an Ants. And for every Dante's Peak, you're going to get a volcano. We have a live-action adaptation of The Jungle Book. We need another, right? Let's talk about it. And welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm your host, as always, C-Dubs, and I'm riding solo on this video. And guys, we are here with another installment of Netflix and Beyond. This is a series that we sometimes do, we sometimes don't. We'll label some movies in the category we don't sometimes. Anyway, but Netflix and Beyond is where we take a movie from Netflix and we review it, or beyond Netflix, let's say somewhere else on the internet, another streaming service, and or let's say Redbox. And we review it and we talk to you guys about what we think about that movie. Pretty simple, right? So today's movie in question is Netflix and Andy Serkis's adaptation of Kipling's The Jungle Book. Now, a few years ago, I think maybe actually it was last year, we had a live adaptation of Disney's Jungle Book, if you will, which was a direct live-action version of the animated movie, if you will. Now, it's not shot for shot, scene for scene, or dialogue for dialogue, but the general ideas, most of it is there. You get your bare necessities, you get your, Louis singing, about white man, or man's flower, if you will. And it's great. I love it. It's fantastic. It's made me so hopeful for the live-action adaptation of The Lion King, and I just can't wait. But when I heard that Andy Serkis had this movie coming out, I was pretty intrigued, because as we all know, Andy Serkis is a god in the realm of mocap, if you will. Motion capture and voice acting. This dude is like higher tier right there. Like he's like William Shakespeare, if you will, in that area. Every movie you've ever seen him in a mocap, he is knocked it home, dude. He is second to none in that genre, if you will. And in fact, he is teaching others on how to do it as well. And that's what makes him such a special and unique talent. It is a crime that he isn't winning more Oscars for his roles in these, for his acting in these roles, if you will. So let's go ahead real quick, and we're going to talk about a little bit about, the cast that we're dealing with here. Of course, we have Andy Serkis as Baloo. We have Christian Bale as Bagheera. We have Cate Blanchett as Kaa. Okay, and we even have Benedict Cumberbatch as Shere Khan. Now, is that not a star-studded cast that makes you just like, yo, I got to go see this movie? And in all honesty, it was that cast that really sold it for me. Like, I knew I had to see this movie no matter what. Now, to be honest with you, what was really special about this movie to me is that the motion capture for the actors, okay, for the actual animals, if you will, look like the actors to some degree. You could see the shape. You could see who was playing these characters, and it blew my mind. But yet they still look like the animal. Now, I think everything and everyone in this movie looked amazing, but there was something slightly off about Shere Khan. And it could just because, as much as I love Benedict Cumberbatch, maybe there's something odd or off about the shape of his noggin. I don't know. Because it may have translated right into Khan, and he just seemed kind of weird. But let's talk about the film. Now, if you think you know the story of The Jungle Book, you probably know Disney's version. Because surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize what Disney does is they take, stories and fairy tales and novellas and nursery rhymes that are in generally the public domain, okay, and they generally put their own twist on them, if you will. And people take it as if they created these stories, if you will. And in many, many times, that is not the case. Sometimes, and many more times, they gather the inspiration or the thought or the outline or premise to one of their films from an outside source. And it's just part of Disney magic that's something that is not like as well known as you think it should be. So this movie kind of does the same thing. It takes its own little twist. It is the in terms of the grittiness, it is definitely a like the Dark Knight to the MCU, if you will. Where Disney's version of the Jungle Book would be the MCU, nice, bright, colorful, humorous here and there, and this one now, though it is darker and grittier, it's still accessible for children and families. Kids can see it. There's really only one or two scenes that, maybe some children under 13 couldn't handle. Maybe about, I would say maybe 4 scenes that I can think of off the top of my head that really, really you might have to question for some of the younger audience. But, if you're a good parent, your children can handle it if you talk to them and teach them. So this movie follows the story of Mowgli, as we all know. Bagheera finds him, brings him to the wolves, and it's the wolves hold a meeting essentially to determine what to do with the kid, and of course they decide to keep him. Basically, he has to learn to become a wolf in order to stay a part of the pack and in order to stay in the actual jungle, if you will. Now, there are a few things to this movie that really stand out, and I think they stand out in a wrong way. Everything seems so pack-centric to the jungle. It's almost as if the law of the jungle is really revolved around the pack of wolves, if you will. And I myself, it's been many, many years since I've read the Jungle Book. I read it while I was in elementary school, like 6th grade. So I remember it, but I don't remember every little detail. Because, of course, it was something I'll be honest, I didn't want to do. I just didn't have a choice to do it. It was the book I was given, and I had to do a book report on it. So what you going to do, right? So I had to the end of the year to get it done, and I got it done. So, but again, I don't remember that being the case, and definitely in Disney's version, that's not the case. That's barely the case. Now, also on the flip side of that, Baloo and Bagheera seem to be like affiliated and part of the pack and kind of assist the pack in all of their needs. Like Baloo is the teacher to the pack. He teaches them what they need to do he teaches them the laws of the jungle. He teaches them how to survive, how to hunt. He teaches them how to be a part of the pack and how to be a wolf, essentially. He teaches even the wolves like that. Like he teaches the young adolescent wolves that as well. Now, it was kind of strange to me, and there's no explanation how they're kind of associated with the pack. It just is. And if you can look past that, that's fine. And it's not a bad thing. I don't think it hurts the movie really to any big degree, but it was something that kind of I kept thinking about in the back of my mind, especially more and more as the movie went on, where they're like, Mowgli, you have to pass these tests. You have to win the run. You have to make it to the end. Baloo even says that he has never had a student fail. Okay, and he's not going to start now. And throughout the story, Bagheera realizes that this is not his home. He made a mistake by bringing him here. Maybe he should go to the man village. And he tells him, if he makes Mowgli promise that if he doesn't win, or he doesn't actually pass the test of the run, which is where essentially the hunters get hunted and they have to survive and get to the end of the race, if you will. And the person that's hunting them is actually Bagheera. And Bagheera is told not to hold back, so he bops them around. He is vicious. He's kind of scary looking, to be honest with you, during that scene. But he makes Mowgli promise that if he doesn't complete the race, that he will go back to the man village just to basically keep himself safe from Shere Khan. And again, it's all new to me, and it was jarring that you realize how much of Disney's version of the Jungle Book you really hold on to in your mind and how you know the story to be. And when it doesn't quite play out that way, you have this slight friction. And in the beginning of my video here, you saw that there are other movies that are very similar, but they are essentially different movies. They're not dealing with the same characters. So this movie has that, but it's even more detriment to it because you automatically associate it, whether you want to or not, you're comparing it. It can't compete with Disney's budget. In all honesty, it is a good movie. I really, really like it, and I would watch it again. And I would recommend for everyone to go watch it. I myself, I liked it enough to give it a 4 out of 5, if you ask me, because I love Andy Serkis that much. And I'll be honest, that's a slight bias on my end. But I definitely can understand some of the criticism. Some of the CGI isn't as crisp as you want it to be. Like I said, some of the oddities of I love that they look like the actors, but again, Shere Khan has this weird shaped head. And then what we're talking about Shere Khan is we all know that Shere Khan's hatred for man is because he was burned by fire, essentially. Like the fire is essentially a big key part of the story, but we never actually get that from him. And a part of me goes, well, yeah, you don't have to retell everything. Everybody knows this already. Sure. But there's one thing about Shere Khan is that he has like this decrepit paw. Like his right paw is like almost burned down to the bone. You can tell that it's been burned by fire. And when he walks, he kind of has this little limp, if you will. He can still use it. Like he does scratch at things with it. Because it still has the claws, but you can see it isn't a normal paw, tiger paw, if you will. In common sense, as an adult, I can look at that and be like, okay, that's what happened. The fire did that. That's why he is the way he is. That's why he hates man so much. But I could definitely see any adolescent or any young teenager not necessarily connecting the dots and figuring it out, especially if they've never seen the Jungle Book version or if they never read the book. So that was another key part that I was like, that's a missed opportunity. And if you guys have been around the universe for a little while, you guys know that's one of my biggest pet peeves. When there's an opportunity, and I hate missed opportunity. It's like, it was right there for the taking, and it's so easy for me in hindsight to say that. I totally get it. But it's just like, oh man, you could have made it so much better with just a little bit more attention to detail. Now, in this movie's case, and I don't want to scare anyone off, but in favor for this movie is that it was pushed back for over a year. It did have a lot of suit and ties kind of get involved because they knew once Disney came out with that film, they were going to be automatically fingers pointing and compared to right or wrong, it doesn't matter. There would be nothing that they could do about it. So they figured, hey, we're not going to get the return on, in the film. Let's just go ahead and sell it to Netflix. Netflix took it on. And to be honest, for a next Netflix movie, I think it's really, really good. Now, there are some key scenes in this film that are fantastic and make the movie worth a watch on its own. And there's one scene in particular that honestly, I think that one scene, as much as I love Disney's version of the Jungle Book, is better than the entire movie. There's not a scene in the Disney movie that's better than this scene, is what I'm saying. And I'm just going to give you a slight, and I don't want to build it up too much because it is so great, I promise you. But essentially, Mowgli's washing off, right? And he goes underwater and he just happens to be swimming with some fish. And he happens to look a little bit up. And he sees Shere Khan coming to the water to take a drink. And as he takes a drink, his whole mouth is filled with blood, right? Because he just got done killing one of the man's cattle. So when he starts to lick, the blood just flows through the water. And it's a scene of pure horror. It's terrifying. And this is one of the scenes that maybe younger kids shouldn't be able to see. Because Mowgli is literally underwater, literally shitting bricks. Like he's scared out of his mind. You see it in his face. Kid is acting on like top notch at this point, and he hooks his foot underneath a vine of some sort or a log, and just so that he doesn't float to the top because he's trying to hold his breath. And of course, us being stupid humans who can't hold their breath very long, we're not all professional swimmers. What happens is a little air bubble comes out of his nose, and as Shere Khan's drinking, that air bubble goes bloop. And Shere Khan looks down, tries to see if he could see into the water. And let me tell you, I was like, oh my God, this is not going to happen like this. How the hell is he going to get out of this? How is he going to hold his breath? And it just so happens that at that moment, he kind of turns and goes. But he then gets out of the water and hightails it out, and Shere Khan is on his ass. And let me tell you, that scene alone is worth checking this movie out, guys. Please, I want to know your thoughts on that scene in particular. Now, I don't want to give too much more of the movie away. Personally, I think as much as, again, huge Bill Murray fan, Ghostbusters, one of my all-time favorite, and I swear that's just coincidence, one of my all-time favorite movies. 1 and 2, I'm pretty sure they're in my top 5. They're definitely in my top 10. Okay? I absolutely love Bill Murray, and I liked Bill Murray's portrayal of Baloo, but Andy Serkis kills it as Baloo. I loved Baloo in this movie, even though he is somewhat of an eyesore. He is kind of hard to take. He has kind of like a lazy lip. And another detriment to the movie is we're so used to associate musical numbers with the Jungle Book, the bare necessities and whatnot. We don't get that. There's no singing in that regard, no enjoyment in that regard, no musical numbers, nothing like that do we get in this film. We do get a celebration, an Indian celebration, if you will, a Hindu celebration, I assume, but we don't get anything else. So don't go into this movie looking for that. You gotta suspend the Disney version out of your mind. If you're looking for it, you're not going to get it. Another thing that was kind of weird to me, that there was no King Louie, even though we did have the monkey people. Shere Khan was seemed to be the ruler of that aspect of it all. Kaa was really unique. She was kind of beautiful, to be honest with you, in my opinion. She was very graceful. She was said to be as old as the forest. She's an anaconda. She's not a boa constrictor. She's said to be able to see the past and the future. And what's really cool, we get this amazing scene of seeing some things from the past and potentially from the future through the color scales of her scale, if you will. As it reflects off the light, you start to see like this motion, and it starts to form, and you start to see what Mowgli's what his past was and what some of his future might become to be. And she tells him that your future is not completely laid out, but everyone in the jungle has been watching you since your birth, since you were brought here. You're either going to save the jungle or destroy the jungle. And it really does look like he's going to end up destroying the jungle for most of the movie. But guys, that one scene, I'm telling you, I need you guys to let me know about it. Now, another really good thing about this film is not only do we get to see his time in the jungle, we get to actually see some real time and believability, for the most part, in his time in the Man Village. So when he finally goes brought to the Man Village, if you will, he's locked up. He's a wild boy. He's a wild child. He's an animal for all intents and purposes. So he's placed into a cage. And we get this story from Bagheera, and we find out that Bagheera, spoiler alert, minor spoiler alert, guys. I'm not going to spoil too much more, but we get to know that he was once a pet, okay? And he wasn't born free in the jungle. And he tells him that sometimes when you're done, you have to stop fighting to earn their trust. And he tells that to Mowgli. And that's when Mowgli starts to kind of calm down and not try to attack everybody. And that's when the people start to treat him like a normal person, if you will. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting about this film is that the royalty that we get in the prestige of the Indian elephants in the original Jungle Book, if you will, we don't really get that too much. They're not like this big focal point. They're in here, and they do assist in the third act in a major way. And there is something heavily associated with them, but they don't seem to be this majestic, necessarily, creature. They're just the biggest creatures out there, so they're just kind of feared, if you will. And, overall, I gotta say this movie was really good. I really had a great time with it. I love that the animals look like themselves. Christian Bale does a great job. There's another scene with Christian Bale during the hunt that's absolutely flawless and almost probably the second best scene in this whole film. That is better than every scene in that movie, to be honest with you, in the original. But guys, go ahead and check this out. Now, just so you guys know, like I always like to do, I like to let you guys know, kind of what Rotten Tomatoes, because that's the thing now. Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 54 and a 69 in terms of the audience. Now, I think that's a huge detriment. I think that's a lot of Disney fans just not liking it. And to be honest, it's not perfect, and it probably doesn't deserve a 4 out of 5. But just because I love Andy Serkis, and I really got a kick out of some of the changes, like seeing Mowgli, interact with actual humans and try to adapt and become human, and seeing the struggles there. Now, what really kind of hurts this movie is the third act. It kind of wraps up really quickly. But I don't think it kills the movie. It all makes sense. It just, everything happens so quickly. I don't think in real life that those events in that way would all happen that fast. But overall, it was really, really good. And I gotta say, guys, go check it out. Come back and let us know what you guys thought. Guys, if you guys can, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up for us. Let us know we're doing a good job. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Click that notification bell to be part of our notification squad so you know every single time we drop a video. We actually are growing at a pretty rapid pace here. We're kind of back on track in terms of the audience that we're getting in. Our views are pretty good right now. We still need some more views to try to make it to the big leagues, if you will. But guys, thank you again for all the love and support. And guys, until next time, I'm C-Dubs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.